Hey guys, Chatterbait here. Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Today I got my top 5 picks for February. You know, January, February, and then we start going into March. To me, is always really triggered the spring jump from wintertime to springtime fishing on most parts of the country. I know if you live, down deep south or way up north, it's a little bit different than that. But I'm gonna go through 5 baits that I would fish this time of year. My top 5 baits to pick this time of year. Of course, there are going to be other baits, you guys. I know that. And but these are 5 baits that I would go to as far as February, and then towards the end of February to carry me through that month that I know I can catch fish on. And if you fish these baits, I promise you will catch fish on them this time of year. I'm gonna kind of start out with what I would probably go with more the earlier part of February. In February, we're getting past January, and January is normally when we have some of our coldest weather. We can definitely still have some cold weather in February, but we're gonna start having more warmer weather and shorter spells of the cold, the cold weather. To me, February, the water can start warming up a little bit more, especially the last couple of weeks in February. It's going to be more of a warm up instead of that deeper freeze that we've got in January. So I'm going to go with these baits I've got right here, you guys. I've always loved to throw jerk baits, and I've been using Lucky Craft jerk baits for years. So I'm going to go, with a jerk bait. It's going to be a bait that you can use all through February and catch fish. I'll go more of your natural color shad patterns and stuff when I'm throwing a jerk bait this time of year, because a jerk bait is a visual bait, you guys. It's not a bait that you're really going to throw in dirty water. It doesn't give off a lot of vibration like that where fish can detect it. It's a visual bait, so you got to keep that in mind when you're fishing it. It's going to throw off a lot of flash. It's going to look natural. It's a bigger bait. It's got a bigger profile, longer profile to it. And the way you work that thing, you're going to be jerking it. It's going to make it go really erratic. So like I said, it's more of a visual bait for these fish. So you want to be in somewhat clear water when you're fishing it. I would normally go with 12-pound test line day in and day out on this. I've gone as low as 8, and I've gone as high as 15 on a jerk bait. So a jerk bait is something a bait where you can fish back in the creeks on the bluff walls. You can fish on main lake points. You can fish right off from flats and stuff like that drop off into the river channel. You can fish around riprap, and it's a super versatile bait. But it's usually fished over a little bit deeper water. And when I'm going to say deeper water, it's going to be 6-7 foot deep and deeper. Okay, you start getting this down, and you can fish it in 3 or 4 foot of water, but you got to keep that rod tip up high and probably go a little bit heavier line and jerk it. But don't make this thing dig down into the bottom, because it's not really a bait made there. It doesn't fish the best that way. Okay, but you can kind of fish it off from. Like if you're going back in a creek that might have 10 foot of water on it, and you're throwing up on 4 foot flats and stuff like that, you can fish on the edge of that creek channel with it like that. And it's a real effective bait to do that through February with a jerk bait. So I like to throw this thing on a shorter rod, say like a 6'10", 6'8" rod, because I want to jerk the bait down instead of off to the side. It's less stress on your forearm when you're working it. So if you're trying to throw this thing on a 7 foot rod or even longer, you may want to downsize in the length of the rod you're using. I use a lot of the KVD. I think it's a 6'10" he's got. that's got the shorter handle on it, that's a great jerkbait, which is his jerkbait rod, of course, guys. But that's a great jerkbait rod. So if your arm's getting worn out throwing a jerkbait all day or even half a day, it could be a lot of it due with just you're using the wrong rod with it, okay? But jerkbaits is something you definitely want to be using in February, guys, okay? All right, now I'm gonna go to my next bait's going to be a 3/4 ounce spinnerbait, okay, you guys? And I'm not going to go with 3/8. I'm not going to throw a half. I want a 3/4 ounce. And what I'm going to mainly do is use this thing on bluff walls. Now, not all lakes got bluff walls on it, but almost any lake will have some type of bluff wall on it somewhere, deep riprap, stuff like that. Because what I'm going to do is I want to be able to throw this thing parallel on those bluff walls that those fish could suspend up and down. You have a warming trend, them fish may be up in about an 8-foot depth zone, okay? They could get colder, they could drop down to 20-foot depth zone. But if you're seeing these things on your side imaging and stuff like that, your active target on these bluff walls, I really like taking that 3/4 ounce spinnerbait because I can sling it out there and I can slow crawl that thing along that wall. And it's just a bait that a lot of guys are not throwing. A lot of guys will crank these crankbait and stuff on these bluff walls, and which is a great bait. But a big spinnerbait like that, slow rolled on these bluff walls in February, in towards the end of February, even early March, can be fantastic. Because a lot of times those fish with me moving into they start moving back in the creeks and stuff that have these bluff walls, that goes back into them, guys, and they're going to stage on that thing, on those bluff walls, and you catch all the big staging females. This happens on Chickamauga, the lake that I guide on also. A lot of these bluff walls and stuff, these fish would stage on them throughout February before they go on back, because it's, you know, it's starting to slowly warm up. You know, the last couple of weeks of February is again the time I'm talking about this, that this spinnerbait can be really good. But like I said, you want a 3/4 ounce, you guys. And you know, you could go to 1 ounce, but sometimes I think it goes too deep, too fast. That 3/4 ounce with some good sized blades on it, you can slow roll that thing down there about with 17-pound test line and keep it in the strike zone you want without fishing it too fast. So if you're not throwing that 3/4 ounce spinnerbait, you guys, on some of these bluff walls, if you got lakes that's got them, do it, because I'm telling you, a lot of fish just do not see this bait that time of year, and it will catch them for you, okay? All right, my next one is going to be the jackhammer. You know, I almost use nothing but all jackhammers anymore. You know, I mean, there's a lot of vibrating baits out there, but I just have tried them all, and I just like the action of the jackhammer, the vibration out of it. I know they cost a little bit more money and stuff like that, but you know, I've got a video where I show how you can change these blades out if you got something that you want with the nickel blade on, or a black blade, or a gold blade on certain ones. You know, you can check out that video in the description. But anyways, what I do with this bait right here is I always early in the springtime, a lot of times there's a lot of big gizzard shad still alive, and they may move up on some of these flats, and that's where I'll throw that solid white one up there, you guys. A lot of times if you get spring rains and stuff like that, those big gizzard shad will move up in those shallow flats and stuff like that, and they'll be eating algae and stuff off some of the rocks in the backs of these creeks and stuff like that. They don't have a lot of predators back there, but those bass will know that they go back there. That shallow rock in February can have good algae on it, you guys, because it's getting the sunlight. It gets too deep, you're going to lose the algae that they want to feed on and stuff like that. That's where this big bulky jackhammer come in handy for you. Throwing that thing and just slow rolling on 17 or 20-pound tests. Anytime I see it lay down or something like that, I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna cover it real well, fish slow, be real thorough with it. But this is another bait that catch a lot of fish on it, and I love to throw it, you guys, if you have like a good warm rain come through and you got that warmer water coming in the backs of these creeks, or even on a little waterfall or something like that. Fantastic time of year to catch some big fish, because them fish know that water's warmer back there, and the bait fish do too, and they'll just congregate back there, back in these creeks, you know, on these little waterfalls and stuff like that, you guys. So that's a bait you're going to definitely want to be throwing. I'm also going to be throwing it in, crawfish patterns. This is one where I've actually cut the skirt off. I custom tile on my own skirts. I wanted more for something I could drag real close to the bottom. It's more of a crawfish pattern right there, you guys. I know they tie their skirts on with wire. Great job. But like I say, I love this bait. and sometimes I just want it in a different color than what I can buy at the store with. And like I said, you can see that color combination I got right there. It's got some green pumpkin and orange in it. Fantastic color, and I got it rigged up with a Z-crawl. That thing's going to look like a crawfish swimming across the bottom. I'm going to throw it out there, let it fall to the bottom, and drag across the rocks, and catch a lot of good fish. And it's being presented in a way that most guys are not going to present this bait. Okay, you guys, there's a lot of fishing pressure out there, and you've got to be thinking outside the box a lot of times. But in late February, these fish are going to start focusing on crawfish are going to be coming more to life, and they just this crawfish, this is a real good crawfish pattern I got. You can buy this living rubber, you guys, and make your own skirts if you want to experiment with that, or you can buy a lot of skirts already pre-made and change them out like that, guys. So don't be afraid to cut that skirt off from that jackhammer and just use a regular band on it. It'll still get the job done, and you'll catch a lot of fish, and you'll be showing them that bait in a color that a lot of times they may not be seeing. This is a natural color, a jackhammer in that red. Fantastic bait in springtime. Anytime you got cold water. I just did a video about cranking shallow crankbaits in the reds and stuff like that, and same thing applies to this jackhammer. It's a color you want to have tied on. You guys in February, they just love red, and so slow cranking around any points, any kind of riprap. You could actually throw this on around some stumps in if you got lakes that still has hydrilla or grass still in it like that, you guys, it's gonna be another good bait. I usually always throw this thing on 17 or 20 pound line. You can catch a big fish with it. It still fishes real good on heavy line. So that's gonna be my number three pick rather. My next pick is going to be fishing a jig. Like I say, I know there's a lot of different baits you could go with this time of year, and you catch a lot of fish on them. But this time of year, I really feel like we're kind of going out of winter into the beginning stages of spring. I'll throw this little ball jig. This is a 1/4 ounce. I love this little small compact jig. I got this one rigged up with a Zoom Super Junior on here. It's just a natural brown color, you guys. You can see that right there. I haven't trimmed that weed guard, but I would definitely trim that weed guard some before I fish that. Just want to rig this one up and show it to you. And this, like I said, that little ball jig, you guys, that thing's really good around rock and stuff. It doesn't hang up a lot, and you can fish it on these gravel banks and stuff like that. These 45-degree banks that's coming out of the backs of the creeks on points and stuff like that. But you can throw it on bluff walls and everything. But you want to go, fish that bait a lot, even back in the creeks and stuff like that on these channel walls. It can be real good. I'll throw it usually on 12-pound test line on bait caster, and I'll just swim it out. And if there's current back there, I'll let that thing fall down there and just kind of let it swim down naturally with the current, especially if you got some good spring rains and stuff in the backs of these creeks. It's another good bait, and it's going to catch a lot of fish. Just because it's small, it doesn't mean it's not going to catch big fish, because it will, okay? Now, this is going to be all the way to the other end of the spectrum. This is more of a bigger jig. It's only a 3/8 ounce, but I've got a big pork chunk on there. That's a Zoom Super Chunk. I think that's a super chunk, but anyways, so you see the bulkiness of this bait right here, guys? The thing about this, a lot of times you got those big bass, those big females and stuff, they're going to be staging up, like I was telling you, on these bluff walls, back in these creeks and stuff like that. This big bulky bait will catch you a lot of good, 3-pounders, 5, 6, 7-pound fish because they're looking for that bigger meal. And again, you got to remember that water's normally starting to warm up a little bit versus January, where you're going more into February. So going with a big bulky bait like that can really be good. I love to flip these things around docks. I love to flip it on bluff walls. Any kind of lay downs and stuff I might have going back into some of the bigger creeks and stuff like that. But this thing is on a 3/8 or 1/4 ounce head with that big bulky chunk on there. It fishes real slow. I'm going to throw it on 20-pound line, and you can catch some really big giant fish. Even if you got lakes that got river systems in the back of them, guys, I'll run up that river. Water could be low, but you can go up there and start flipping anything you can see. Fantastic way to catch you a big bag of fish. All right, guys, so don't forget the ball jig, and don't forget this big bulkier jig too as well when you're out there fishing. All right, and I'm gonna go to another bait that's just gonna put fish in the boat for you guys. This is a little Ned rig. This is just a straight green pumpkin. I think this is a 1/4 ounce I got rigged up here. You want to use different sizes, but I use a lot of 1/4 ounce. I'm gonna fish this thing on the bluff walls, going back in the creeks again. You can fish on all points, you know, any kind of gravel point like that. But this is a small compact bait. I'm gonna throw on a spinner reel. Usually I'm gonna have probably about 10 or 15 pound test braid rigged up with a 10-pound fluorocarbon, Seagull fluorocarbon leader, and I'm gonna just fish this thing anywhere that I feel like a fish could be hanging out at. It's not super weedless. You can still throw it around wood and stuff like that, but you gotta be careful. It's got the single weed guard and stuff on there. But it's great to go back in the creeks again, you guys, and sling this thing on bluff walls and stuff like that. It's going to hang on you in riprap, so it's probably not a real good choice to fish around riprap. I'm fishing this more around the more gravel banks, the finer gravel, any of these lakes that might have pea gravel and stuff like that. This is going to be a good bait to put fish in a boat. And if you got somebody who's not been doing that, hasn't fished that much, this is a good bait to put on too, guys, because almost anybody, all you got to do is to drag this thing around real slow to catch fish, okay? So that's going to be your Ned rig. Guys, I appreciate you watching. I'm hoping this will help you out in February. Keep in mind everything I talked about here. Always have an open mind, because I'm telling you, when it comes to fishing, you can catch them on anything. Make sure you subscribe, you guys. Leave a comment. Let me know how your fishing is doing. And man, I really appreciate it, guys. Appreciate you watching the channel. Until next time, good fishing to you guys.